guys, what's up?
Hello.
I'm Kelly, prefers Al Pastor Keen.
And I am Dawn, Men Without Hearts, Glenn, my favourite 80s alternative band.
Love it. And I love how you're off to the side with the New Mexico poster in the background. Love that. Very cute. We are Cyborg Queen Media, and we're back to talk about Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. I realized after our last episode that I really need to put a little Daryl Dixon thing here in the bottom.
Because it just says Cyborg Queen.
It's the Cyborg Queen podcast, but if someone brings it up on YouTube, at least they know what we're talking about.
Just put on the bottom, just put a little Daryl and Carol on the bike going across the bottom.
I will likely have to do that. Anyway, welcome back, guys. Welcome if this is the first time you're here. If you're not familiar with us, we are Cyborg Queen Media. We cover Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, both here and on our Cyborg Queen podcast, which is brand new. We are starting off with we're eventually going to upload all of our coverage for our other shows other than Yellow Jackets and Dexter to our Cyborg Queen Media podcast. But until then, you can find us here for all of our coverage, whether it's Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, Yellow Jackets, from Dexter, Severance. There's lots of stuff that we cover, lots of stuff we're planning on covering. We do cast interviews, etc. Also, if you are usually more of an audio podcast person, in addition to the Cyborg Queen podcast, we have the Antler Queens, which is a flagship audio podcast. And on there, we cover Yellow Jackets and Dexter because they're both Showtime shows. So we don't, as of right now, we don't plan on adding anything else on there. It's just Yellow Jackets and Dexter. But anyway, glad to have you back here if you're returning. And man, I'm feeling really alone in my feelings about this season.
Oh, I feel bad, yes. The reaction to the first episode was what I expected, which was positive. I saw somebody posted that it's an 8.0 on IMDb for that episode, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty high. I did like the first episode, but I have to admit, I haven't watched any of I haven't really given a proper viewing to any of the rest of the episodes past this one yet. Wait to do that before we cover it. But honestly, I just hate Westerns, and that's all I got from it. It's just Western, and I hate Westerns. But I have to admit, on the second viewing of this episode, I liked it a little more.
I'm liking the secondary characters in this, and I think I like the smaller feel to this story compared to the France, let's dominate the world kind of stuff that was going on, and we're collecting walkers from all over the world for a reason.
Yeah.
I think when the Daryl and Carol spin-off was originally spoken about, I think this was the kind of story that I more imagined, which is local stories to people they meet.
Sure. And before I was talking about how I liked the French character so much more, and I really think it's been a while since I've watched it. So I probably, when I made that judgment, I probably mainly had Quinn and Falou in my mind because I just loved both of those characters so much. Quinn, who wasn't even in season 2, but he was such a great character.
Yes, he was. And I think also there was a clearer, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. You had two sides, which this season is a lot more bloody about.
Yeah. But I really, like, on the second viewing, I really took to Justina a lot.
I think she's, the actress Candela Seta, I think is how you pronounce it, is so beautiful, luminously beautiful.
Yes.
Just, I can't not look at her. But she also has a real quality to her, like a star. I can see her being a big Hollywood star. She really has that star quality on screen.
It's so funny because I have in my notes I actually put a note to myself. I hate commenting on people's appearances, but oh my God, she's stunning.
Yes. Yes, she is. And I always think I'm happy to comment on people's looks in a positive way. I'm happy to compliment them. And she just stand out for how beautiful she is.
Today we are talking about episode 2, La Ofrenda, which means the lottery. Very imposing title. We will start the episode with a short synopsis or a short recap, and then move on to our top fives, our MVPs, and our LVPs, and all that fun stuff. So, Dawn, why don't you take it away with the recap?
Sure thing, especially if you haven't watched the episode. This is what happened. So when we left off last episode, Carol was nowhere in sight. Daryl was screaming for her at the top of a ravine. It turns out it's okay. Carol wasn't kidnapped. She's down in the river, watching, enamored, as two young lovers, Roberto and Justina. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. That's how they say it on the show. I'm going to try my best. They're fully clothed, frolicking in the water. I hasten to add. She's not perving on them. Daryl finds her and admonishes her for going away, and she shushes them and just says, "Look, they're so perfect." She's completely in awe of their beauty, and all Daryl can see is the stuffed pack sitting on the rocks, and he plans to loot and plunder from them for their own needs. Carol's against it, but before Daryl can do anything, a jeep approaches of some scary, rough-looking men. Roberto and Justina try to hide, but they see them and start asking them questions. Eventually, they amongst themselves, the men say, "We have to kill them. They've seen us." And just as they're about to shoot, of course, Daryl comes to the rescue, kills 3 of the 4 men with his arrows, and he chases the fourth. The fourth man escapes. But when he comes back, Justina and Roberto are out of the water, and Carol is approaching. Justina is very caring and immediately sees she's injured and needs help, and she wants to help her. Roberto does not. He keeps insisting that they ignore them, they leave them, they give them all their food, medicine, whatever they want, just let them go. They say that they give different stories of what they're doing, and eventually Daryl says, "Well, if you don't want to take us someplace, point us to where we can go." Justina says that her grandmother is a healer and can help Carol. And he says, "Okay, so where?" And they say, "Oh, it's just a few kilometers in this way, but it's not a good place. They won't allow strangers in." And Daryl says, "They will if you bring us," and literally holds a gun to Roberto's head. So because he says, "I'm not going to let my friend die out here." As they approach the town, Paz is herding walkers into cages outside the walls. She's a woman in a sort of cowboy get up on a horse. She's shocked to see Roberto and Jesse come back. They plead Carol's case and say that Carol and Daryl saved their lives. So big metal doors of the town is opened and they enter Solaz del Mar. They walk through the town, and of course it's very western at this point. Everybody's watching them and gasp, strangers in town. And they approach what is the main building. Out on the balcony comes Fede, who Daryl immediately draws his gun on, and there are men around on balconies who draw their guns on Daryl. However, Justina explains they saved her life from bandoleros, and so they relent and accept them in. We see that Carol is being tended to by Justina's grandmother with herbs, and Fede is arguing with Roberto. "We know what you did. You went off in the night with my niece." Turns out Fede is Justina's uncle and knows that they're trying to run away together. Daryl is begging for a night's refuge, but Fede is saying, "No, we don't take in strangers." As they discuss it all, a man approaches and says he will take them in. It turns out this is Antonio, Roberto's father. So the next thing you see, they're at Antonio's, I don't know what you would call it, farmstead. I don't know the name for it. Yeah. It's a big piece of land anyway, with several buildings around a courtyard. And Carol is being tended to. She's got a bed. Antonio's showing her where she can sleep, and she notices there's a lot of film posters around. And she meets Antonio's cat, star of the season. And Roberto, meanwhile, is with Daryl, angry at Daryl that he stopped them leaving town, and explains that he and Justina are stopped being together by the town. Daryl's making a deal with Roberto. "You help me fix my boat, and then we'll help you escape again." Next morning, Carol wakes up feeling better, walks into the courtyard where Antonio is cooking barbecue and Daryl's preparing things to go and fix the boat. And they're interrupted by Paz, who announces that El Alcazar are here. This is the convoy of vehicles and horses for the prince who's to be the next king of Spain, Guillermo Torres. He is come into the town for his once-a-year visit. Antonio explains to Carol and Daryl that as they go and view all of this, while he's telling them, a man interrupts, shouting, "Where's my daughter? She's been gone for 5 years." And a woman gets out of the car after Guillermo, and this is a woman that Paz recognizes. Guillermo announces tomorrow is the Ofrenda, in which a girl is chosen to go and be married off to some of the royal family. And so there's to be big celebrations, but this is the thing Roberto and Justina are running from. The descending father is hung. I'm not sure about the way they hang him, but it's like he's hung from his waist with a weight. I don't know.
That was rough.
It was gross. I was like, is it tied to his waist? Is it tied to his hands, which were tied together behind his back? I don't know, but it looked very painful.
I assume that if they, I don't know, what I was confused about is if they actually do intend to kill them that way.
Yeah. Or is it just torture? Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure on that either. Back at Antonio's house, Antonio and Roberto are arguing about Justina and that whole situation, and Carol is sitting with the cat outside. Daryl's found some beans for their trip home. Carol is saying that she thinks they should help Roberto and Justina because it's their fault that they're here, and Daryl correctly points out, well, they would have been dead if it wasn't for us, so we don't owe them anything. I think we should get our asses back home. Next day, the town is setting up for this big celebration, and we see that the girls who are contending to be chosen are sewing their own name on a ribbon, which it turns out will be tied round the neck of a pig. And there is a pig race to decide which of the girls is the chosen one.
Oh, I have feelings on that.
We'll get to talking about that in detail shortly. Justina comforts a young girl, Alba, who is facing her first ofrenda. And Elena, who is the queen, princess, queen in waiting, who comes in to check on them. And we see outside that Paz receives a note and smiles up at Elena on the balcony. Daryl asks Antonio about this whole system, and Antonio admits it's extortion, but he thinks it's worth it to protect his boy, though that may make him a bad father. Antonio explains to Carol and Daryl Freddy's speech while he's introducing the pig race, and much to everyone, well, not everyone's relief, most people's relief, Alba is the chosen one. Justine gets away with not being chosen again. And just then, a jeep pulls into town, and we see it is the driver is the man who escaped Daryl's arrow and ran away. At the festivities, Daryl chats to Paz, who explains that the walkers are called the Hollow Ones, and she also lets him know that she had helped Roberto and Justina escape. She leaves Daryl, goes down a side street, and has a secret meeting with Elena, where we learn clearly that they are, or once were, lovers and were parted. Elena explains that a girl named Sandra was taken from Salaz de Mar and told stories of Paz, so that's why she knew where she was. Touching, and in such a way that Daryl can see it and obviously picks up what they're putting down. The dinner table, Freddie has invited Daryl and Carol to come and sit at their table, so they're having a lovely time. And Freddie says he's sorry about treating them badly. Now he knows that Daryl's a skilled tracker and Carol led communities. He wants to learn from their wisdom. And of course, Carol, being the wonderful Carol, says, well, things are all very nice, but this is a very strange tradition, isn't it? And why do you do this? And don't you think about the girl's parents? Elena, who is at the table, interrupts and says, look how good it was for me. Carol carries on speaking about this while Daryl sits uncomfortably. And Freddie explains to Carol the Salaz was under constant siege until they made this arrangement, and so no one regrets it. Daryl sees at this point the man, and there are three men who possibly also see Daryl. So he picks up a knife and excuses himself and leaves the table. Carol at the table is then put in her place by Justina's grandmother, who says, you're a guest who needs our help. You think you know so much, but you're here on the other side of the world, lost. You're not doing so great yourself. Come back at us when you find a better way. As the dancing begins, we cut between Daryl, who gets some weapons and is going after these three men, eventually follows them onto the walls of the city, where he attacks them, kills them, or throws them off over the wall into the walkers who are lined as protection. And whilst that, the visuals of that, we hear Fede telling Carol about Spain, and he says that Spain, she is chaotic, impulsive, violent, yet cultured, and also proud. Clearly, we're meant to sort of draw a parallel to Spain and Daryl. He says, we conquered the world, we had an empire, but then we couldn't figure out what to do with it, and Spain imploded. We turned on each other, brother against brother. Imagine to be capable of so much, Cervantes, Picasso, Gaudi, yet to be our own worst enemy. My duty is to protect my people from every threat, even the most persistent one, ourselves. As we see that Daryl, I'm not getting involved in anything, has killed 3 men and thrown them over the wall. That was that episode. And which, when I watched it, I was shouting at Nick going on at Carol, and he's the one that's causing the problem. Typical man.
Right. 1 to 10. What would you give this episode?
6, 7. It was a 7. I was trying to
Yeah.
think, it felt, when I was writing the synopsis, it felt really long. But then when I thought back to it, I was like, there wasn't a huge amount of scenes in terms of story. They meet Justina and Roberto, they go to the town, they get taken to Antonio's, the festivities.
I liked it a little bit more on the second viewing. I don't know. I still found the French seasons more exciting for whatever
Mhm.
reason. I feel like this is more action-packed, and I'm not necessarily big on action.
No. I like Jeopardy more than action, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. People are going to kill me for constantly bringing up Dexter, I swear to God. But it's like one of the things that makes Dexter so exciting is he's not going to die. He's the main
Yeah.
character. But it's like almost every week, there's always an impossible situation where it seems inevitable that he's going to get caught. And you're like, oh God, how is he going to get out of this?
Yes, I know what you mean. There doesn't have that tension, or there's not that pressure building in this season for Daryl and Carol. There is for other characters, but for Daryl and Carol, this is just them. You know what I mean? There's nothing on them. They're going into somebody else's story. The story doesn't feel like theirs so much, whereas it was in season 2 and 1. Season 2, obviously, both of theirs. You know, Carol's journey to Daryl was all about the things she was doing, and we don't have that. Maybe that's what it is. Carol isn't being particularly sneakily and brilliantly Carol this season. So maybe that's what you're missing. And I am too.
I enjoyed Carol a lot in this episode. Carol, this was a great Carol episode.
It was.
It gave me everything I love about Carol.
Yes.
Except there weren't really any goofy moments, and I love when she's silly. But other than that, I loved every second she was on screen, pretty much.
Yeah.
And Daryl, even Daryl was a...
Yes, it was
like,
a good... Yeah, so far, Daryl, 2 out of 2. Good episodes, Daryl.
And I love... One thing I love about Daryl that I felt like they did away with for a long time, and every once in a while they'll give us little tastes of the dinner scene where he just had the worst table manners. And
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love that. It reminds me of the old, like, it's a tiny reminder of the old season 1 Daryl that we used to love so much. Where they were constantly having to tackle him to prevent him from beating somebody.
Throwing squirrels, Daryl.
If there's one quote from Daryl that sums up everything I love about his character, it's, I'll kick your nuts up in your throat.
Daryl.
Fun Daryl before he became an action figure. But let's go ahead and get to our LVP and MVP. Who is getting your Suspenders Award this week?
My Suspenders. LVP is going to Roberto for being a whiny little boy. I feel bad for him because obviously he's a lovelorn thing and all he wants is to escape with his girlfriend. But I'm like, oh, shut up, stop going on about it. When he was talking to Daryl about it, and he was like, everything is awful without her. Which, if Daryl was saying that about Carol, I would love, admittedly. But it was the way he was like, and my father doesn't remember what that feels like. It just felt so much like a 14-year-old boy. Nobody understands me. I'm going to my room. Kind of behavior. And of course, he didn't want to help Daryl and Carol repeatedly. So he's on my list of not. I could have picked any of the number of murderous people, but Whiny Rose was the one who just stuck out to me as who I was. What's the phrase? Yeah, she's reached. No, you've reached and she's settled.
There you go. My suspenders award this week is actually going to go to Daryl. Even though I just said that it's and you were just complaining about Roberto. Roberto just offered him all of their medicines and everything, and he just whips out a gun immediately. I'm like, really? Is that necessary, dude? Come on.
Oh, when he was going to go across and steal the stuff, and Carol's, oh, don't do that. He's like, oh, they won't fight me. And she says, what's the crossbow for? And he's like, an icebreaker.
Yeah. Not cool, Daryl.
No. And then just going straight to killing 3 people in the town when you said you don't want to get involved.
Exactly. Who is getting your angel wings this week?
Well, there can be only one. I feel bad, but I think this is a good reason. Is Carol this week for standing up for the women, for literally saying what's on her mind, for risking being ostracized, thrown out, but just because she could not keep her mouth shut. And way to go, Carol. She's like, no, I'm not going to just pretend this is fine. I'm going to, and even after she's put in her place and she's talking to Freddie and she's apologized and said, no, you're right, I'm a guest, I shouldn't say anything. And you still see her looking at Alba and Justina, and she's obviously still deeply uncomfortable and wants to go, this isn't right, I'm not a part of this. So well done, Carol. In the time when people have gone morals out the window to survive, Carol's like, no, we've got to hold on to that. So well done, Carol.
Yeah, she's getting my angel wings for the exact same reason. It was a strong episode for her, and I love the way that she stood up. She did it in a way that came across in a way that would be received a little better if Daryl did it. I think she was still very firm and she wasn't backing down.
And she didn't just go and kill people. She Carol might to do in other situations. I thought that was really good that she was upfront about it. She wasn't. We've seen Carol in the past put on a mask and fake it, and I really liked that wasn't what she did here. She didn't pretend to be one of them and go, this is great. She was like, no, I'm just going to say it out loud. This isn't right.
I love that as soon as she spoke up, that's when Daryl took, he's got this handled, I'm going to go now.
I'll just take this knife and leave.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and go to our bottom 5 moments. Now, again, don't put too much stock into what we put in our bottom and top 5, hits and misses, highs and lows, whatever you want to call them. An episode could be completely brilliant and flawless, and we'll just find things to pick at.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's just a way to make sure that we're looking at the episodes critically, even if we have a hard time finding things to appreciate or criticize. It's just, that's kind of the whole purpose of it. So that said, what is your number 5?
Well, number 5 is what we've just been talking about, Daryl causing problems. Love it because it was funny, but it's like that Daryl, I'm not getting involved in anything. He thinks that means speaking and doing things. Killing people, that's not getting involved. That's just killing people. And that he was so messy about it. And that if somebody is getting thrown over the wall into walkers, you assume there's going to be some evidence of them there. And yes, maybe they don't count their walkers or whatever, but it still doesn't seem like the brightest idea. So he didn't think that through. He just saw the guy and decided, because it was, at first I thought, are the 3 people coming after Daryl? But then it didn't seem like they were just hanging out on the wall drinking and I don't really know what they were doing. So he might have got away with it, but he just thought, no, preemptively, I'm just going to kill these 3 people. If Carol had done that, they probably could have been giving her a hard time, but they won't give Daryl a hard time. Just saying that.
Yeah, true. My number 5, I'm going to be honest, there weren't, I actually had a harder time this week with picking things for the bottom 5 because there were,
me too.
I think there were things that I absolutely hated in this episode, but there were more things that I liked. But I think my number 5 is just a general kind of apathy from everybody about the situation with them taking the girls. It's townspeople are all dancing around and happy and celebrating, and it's not a good situation. And honestly, this whole thing is probably it's not going to make for a great podcast episode, but It's probably going to make up almost all of my number 5's bottoms.
I was going to say, by the way, all 5 of mine are related to this as well. I was just going to say that they are all about this storyline. Yeah,
That's pretty much.
It's difficult because you have to have horrible storylines in this show. I get that, to show the horribleness of people. But the way it's presented, I have issues with how they've presented this story. And that's like what you're saying is one of them. That people are all like,
exactly. I'm just going to say it right now. All of my bottom 5s are involving this storyline.
yeah, so mine. Sorry. Actually, no, one of them isn't. One of them isn't.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So we've got one that isn't. So we're all right.
Perfect. So what is your number 4?
So my number 4 is Antonio talking to Daryl about this. And his whole, well, extortion. I think it's extortion. But also, it's worth it. And then he's like, oh, but does that make me a bad father? And Daryl's like, no, well, you must be a good father if you're even thinking you're a bad father. So it was the way it was presented as though Antonio was honourable, but also he's not bothered to do anything about it. He's like, I disagree with that, but I'm still here enjoying the profits of it. So it's one of these issues where it's like, it's a very morally grey area, and you're like, how are we? It's making me think of Isabel in the sense of how we're meant to view Antonio, or in that scene. Are we meant to go, yay, what a good dad, and he really is against this? Or are we meant to go, oh, he's against it, but he's not doing anything? What a hypocrite. So I'm not sure what we're meant to think.
I did not think very highly of him because he straight up says it's worth it. It's extortion, but the safety is worth it. And then I didn't think very highly of Daryl for basically agreeing with him.
Yes, exactly. For him to say, for Antonio to say, because he has a son, he doesn't have a daughter. Would he be saying differently if he had a daughter?
Yeah, exactly. My number 4, I'm sorry. My number 4 is pretty much the same thing, actually. Just that whole Antonio and Daryl. I was trying to come up with something else I could add to it, but you pretty much covered it. So I don't really have anything else to say to that. But that whole scene with Antonio and Daryl, I did not like Antonio saying that, and admitting that it's extortion and saying, it's worth it, and then Daryl agreeing with him. Yeah, not cool. What's your number 3?
Good news, we're taking a little sidestep, a little break from this storyline.
Nice.
And it's Daryl as Spain. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but that's the way that scene was, to me, was played. The way it was cut between Teddy's dialogue and Daryl's action, and the fact they were focusing on words like, he's chaotic, violent, but proud. And I thought, they're talking about Daryl. We're meant to think that about Daryl. And I will say, spoiler, but not a very specific spoiler, they do use this same narrative device later on in the season. So it's a repetition. And I just think, if the show's called Daryl Dixon, we know he's the star. We know Daryl's a very honourable hero and fantastic. But we don't need, I just think it's a very tired narrative choice to do to make us look at Daryl. And to make this, obviously it was to make this whole action scene more interesting. And I appreciate that, because I don't care about action. But I just think Daryl, he's proud. That to me, it was meant to be that, because obviously at the end he says we have to protect ourselves from our worst enemy, which is ourselves. And we're seeing Daryl do this really stupid thing of killing 3 people, which is going to have bad repercussions down the road. So that's what made me think we're definitely meant to be thinking about Daryl there. Basically, I don't want us to be thinking about Daryl all the time. Let's think about other people.
Yeah, agreed.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is also my list of tops, and actually that's GBH too. This is a beautiful shot, beautiful cinematography. But I remember when we covered the trailer, we were looking at one of these shots and saying that, and guessing that this might have been a clever way of them to try to make us think that Stephen Merchant was
I forgot we said that. Yes. Oh, look at that tall person walking across.
Yeah. The first time I saw that, I was like, oh, so they all survived the crash, and Daryl and Julian are helping Carol. So it had nothing to do with this episode. It's more a criticism on the trailer. But I had to throw it in there because I'm so focused on this whole
just something thing to be slightly distracted.
What's your number 2?
Back to the thing. Having all the women defend it. That's when Carol is sitting at the table. Now, I realize that's a deliberate thing because they're trying to make it look, the women are good with it too. But it was so icky to have Elena and Justina, and then the forcing of Alba's mother, and then Justina's grandmother, who gives the most, because Elena, you can understand why she's trying to keep the peace. She wants her husband to not get riled up and cause any trouble. And Alba's mother's doing it to protect her daughter. But Justina's grandmother has no reason to do this. Everybody's moved on, and she has to go to Carol. Hey, you think you're so good? It felt like you're meant to think she was right, that Carol was in the wrong to say it because Carol's messed up and Carol hasn't turned out well. But ending up across the world on your own, it wasn't on her own, but you know what I mean. It's not the same as trading your daughters for guns and medicine and whatever else.
And they never see them again.
No, exactly. Not when they don't know what happens to them. They're told that they're going to be married off and lead a luxury life. But in this episode, they say it's very unusual. They've never seen one of the princesses or whoever they are come home again and come back and be seen. So they're taking it on word that, oh, this is great for them. They live in luxury. They have a great life. They don't know that.
They could all be dead. They could be using them for food, for all they know.
Exactly. We have no idea. They could be using them as breeding mares in the horrific, in a kind of Handmaid's Tale kind of way. They have no idea, and that they're prepared to do it, and then once they're gone, they just close their mind to that. And the poor girl's family or siblings or loved ones just have to pretend she never existed. And that's horrific. I think maybe that's it. They're not making enough of how horrible this is. I think that's our main takeaway, is that they're not showing really how this is human trafficking, and it's horrific.
There could be a whole Handmaid's Tale situation going on with handmaids and colonies and who knows what.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not good.
Your number 2.
My number 2 is the fact that they're engaging in straight up torture. They tortured this poor guy for wanting to know where his daughter is. That's all he did. He did nothing terrible other than make a spectacle, and you're going to torture him for that?
And I don't know, like you said, I don't know, is that meant to kill him, or is it just meant to... I really should have looked up what that torture... I'm assuming it has a name, a specific thing. It's a known medieval torture or ancient torture of some kind. But it's like, is it trying to pull his body apart, or is it just...
Okay, so we just looked it up, and we have no idea. We couldn't find anything.
Can't find it.
They just made it up for the show.
Even asked my torture expert husband. He's not really a torture expert, but he does D&D, so he knows a lot of these historical torture device things for Dungeons and Dragons. But no idea.
But I don't know if that guy was actually wanting them to kill them, or if he was just basically like, I didn't. It was a very confusing scene to me.
Yes, I don't know.
I don't know. There were a lot of things that I found confusing. But, so that's mine. That's my number 2. That was 2, right?
Yes, that was 2. Yep.
One of these days, I will stop confusing my number. I need to get a little graphic of from Sesame Street.
Yes, that's the reason. Number 1, and I think yours is going to be exactly the same. It's the pig race. It is the fact that they have used pigs to replace the girls, and the connotations of it, the fact that it's down to who wins, the fact that it's such a kind of gross thing, this race with animals, and the fact that it's pigs of all animals when women are so often called pigs as an insult, or just all the connotations of it are hideous.
Yep. It was just gross. There's no other way I could describe it. It was just gross.
I thought, they'll put their names in a hat, they'll tumble them, it'll be something like that. But yeah, the addition of pigs and everybody cheering on.
This is exactly what we think of your pig race. Sorry, I had to have that in there. No, that's my number 1 as well. I hated it. I was grossed out. It made me want to puke in my mouth. It gave me so much ick. And most of the time when we're talking about our bottom fives, about terrible things that happen in the episodes, it's still good storytelling. This was not good storytelling. This just sucked. I think it was a terrible choice to have this. I hated every second of it. I just thought it was gross. I don't think that it added anything to the story other than just making us feel really grossed out.
Because they could have done it in the way they still have to embroider their names, and I don't know, they throw them all up in the air and whatever one lands on a spike, that kind of thing. Anything that would have had the same tension in the air and oh no, and that moment without the whole idea of adding it to the girls, associating the girls with pigs.
It was very dehumanizing.
That's the word, dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Deeply unpleasant.
All right,
so let's go. Just to say, I think it's an all-male writing team this year, by the by.
Isn't that a coincidence? Women, guys, get some women of color, please. God, I can't take. I'm too tired to crush the patriarchy on my own, so I need you guys to do some patriarchy crushing.
And I think normally we can laugh off a lot of stuff because it's unrealistic, hideous murders and everything. But I felt it, as a woman in today's society, it felt close to, and I did not like that.
It's 2025. We should have moved past doing stuff like this. It's, sorry, guys, another Dexter reference. We just finished covering Dexter season 1, which was like 2006. And we had a lot of issues with it, namely how sex workers are treated. And we had a lot of complaints about it. But we're talking 20 years ago. This is 2025, and seeing this shit, it's just gross. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's not on. I can't say that it's not on brand for Walking Dead, but that's a whole nother story. All right, let's go to our tops. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is Protective Daryl. The Daryl that admittedly held a gun to Roberto's head, but he was doing it to protect Carol. The way he was like, "Oh, how did you come down here? You should be in bed, you silly woman. Stay in bed and look after yourself." And then he was like, "This is my chance to get help for her. This is my chance to make sure she lives and doesn't succumb to sepsis or something." And he was going to do anything. And then he walked into that town surrounded by people with guns, but he's like, "I've got a gun. Don't you touch my Carol. Don't you do anything. Give it a bed." I love when he's completely unreasonable, but because he's being protective of Carol. It reminded me of Fighting Weather Daryl, who threatened Richard with, "If she gets hit by lightning, I'm blaming you."
Yes. That, or the moment with Jesus when he was in Alexandria, he's like, "My compliments to the cookie maker." And Daryl's like, "Ain't here."
Stands in front as if, "Don't go looking for her."
So my number 5 was, the cinematography is always great in the show. And this shot was so beautiful. The moving drone shot. It was sorry, I got a screenshot here, but it doesn't do it justice.
No, it doesn't. It was really beautiful. And where they were walking up to the town and the town sort of unfold in front of you, I thought that was really beautiful as well.
Absolutely. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is the cuteness of Carol watching Young Love. I thought that was so cute, that she was just completely enamored and transported someplace else by watching this young, seemingly carefree couple kissing and joking and just messing about, and she's just like, "Oh, that's how life should be. That's beautiful. That must be protected. Wrap them in a bubble." And I thought that was really lovely. And coming after Carol last week, who we're suddenly seeing is having hope and faith in life and is looking forward to things and excitement, and here she is seeing a symbol of what she's feeling, this blooming young love that have a bright future ahead of them. And I think that was a lovely gift for her to see, and for us to see her enjoying it in a non-pervy way.
My number 4 was actually was part of that. That is part of my number 4. But it was the juxtaposition of her watching these people and just like smiling. I always love to see Carol smile. She looked so happy watching them, and she commented, "They're beautiful," and then juxtaposition of that and her waking up later in the episode and looking around at the photos of Antonio and his family, and it immediately reminded me of the fact that she has only had that once, and it was very short, and I believe it was good for her, and I do believe that obviously she cared a lot about Ezekiel. She loved Henry, but it was her way of hiding in a way. It was something that I don't think happened genuinely. There was obviously a notable difference from the way that she was with Ezekiel than how she was with Tobin. You could see she had genuine feelings for him, and it made me sad to think she had this nice little family, because obviously she didn't have that with Ed. And she had this nice little family for 5 minutes. And that's the only time she ever had that.
Even as you say, she didn't have that same unbridled love that Roberto and Justina have. As you say, it was a more calculated. It was her saying, "I need this. This is good for me. I'm going to make myself enjoy it," kind of thing. And Ezekiel's a good man, and he's going to protect me and treat me well, and I'll have a good time. It's not the same as I am head over heels in love with this person, which is obviously what Roberto and Justina feeling.
It was more of like admiration almost. And it made me sad for her. She just hasn't had, well, I won't expand on what else we know about Antonio, but it just made me sad for the kind of life she had, particularly with Ed. And I'm sure Sophia was probably not a very happy child because of all of that. So that was my number 4. It was painful, but I thought that it was good storytelling. What was your number 3?
My number 3 is Women Loving Women. It's Paz and Elena. Oh, I loved them immediately. I loved that scene of them together, the little secret meeting. And one of the things I really loved about Elena was her confidence, that she was there and she wasn't hiding and shy and, "Oh no, Paz is going to give me away." No, she went there to see her and was really determined and was open, and I just loved her openness with Paz, and how she said their last line where she said, "I was always praying for you to come for me." Paz is her hero, her cowboy. She used the phrase at the start, a cowboy something or a cowgirl. I missed how she described her, but I love that that's her hero. That's her knight in shining armor coming on a horse to rescue her as Paz. And their scene was just lovely together, and they had a lovely chemistry, which made me believe they had this history, instantly. And it's just, they talked about this a lot before the season started, that it's a season full of love, and that this episode it makes it very clear. We see Roberto and Justina, and now we see Paz and Elena, and they're the two sets of lovers is just really beautifully done.
Paz reminds me a lot of Daryl in a way.
Yes, I think we're definitely meant to see that. I think we're definitely meant to see her as Daryl in a Spanish female form.
She's kind of a quiet, grumpy hero.
Exactly, but who is helping people, is helping Roberto and Justina escape, who does all that stuff. And Daryl says to her, "You do everything around here. You look after the animals, you round up the walkers." That's very Daryl. She's made herself useful because she doesn't have love.
Right. I like Paz a lot. I like her already. My number 3 is they've got a lot of, I'm scrambling to find my screenshot here because they got all put out of order, but they've got a lot of talented people in this town. These Walker heads are freaking incredible.
They are.
Like, I love these things. They're massive. And they're like, they've got all these, people are wearing it on their heads, and they've got all these masks. It is so impressive. And I love it. I think it's incredible. I would love to see them. I would love to see how they make these.
Yes, I'm assuming it's papier mâché or something of that ilk. I would love to see the behind the scenes of this whole episode. They don't spend enough time showing all the stuff. I love all this, the props and the Foley and everything. And I'd love to see some of how they did that.
If I worked on the show, I would be like, hey guys, let's do a game and make one of these cake. Last day filming, let everyone take a bite of one, and whoever gets the cake wins. I would like that.
My number 2 is related to that, really, and it's the festivities. I love this. Is something I imagined. When I speak about this a lot. When they first announced Daryl and Carol spin-off and the things I imagined, and this was one of them. It's like the scene in *Romancing the Stone*, where they make it to the town and there's some festivities going, and they each get their own new set of clothes, and they dance and they drink and they have sex, and obviously that's not happening here. But I want to see Daryl and Carol really mixing with people in their lives, and that's part of it. The whole setting up the tables, and then the lights come on and everybody cheers, and I am sad that they missed the opportunity to force Daryl to dance. I would have paid good money to see that. Not slow dancing, but one of these things, arms around each other, hey, kick it in or whatever. I would have loved that. Please give us that in season 4. But I just think it's really nice to see that kind of thing, to see people relaxing, and I love any of the domesticity kind of scenes, and that was particularly, and I think it gave you a feeling of community, which you don't often feel. In The Walking Dead, we had that one scene, which was Rick's dream, of them all sitting at the long table. I wanted to see that for real in The Walking Dead. I wanted to see the community have celebrations and have stuff, but we never did. So I'm glad we got to see it here.
Same. My number 1 or
2.
I am. My God, I need a nap and I need an edible.
We're getting there. It's okay, but we'll get there. We're nearly finished.
All this out anyway. My number 2 is actually the credits. I did not bring them up last week, so I'm going to show them. I think the credits this season are so cool.
They are. I agree. That painting of Melissa Carroll is stunning.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. And I love this shot. It's got on one side you've got people, and on the other half they're all distorted into walkers.
And I love the way you do it. It was like something was eating up through the paper, fireworks, but it turned them into walkers. So clever.
And then this one with the fire, you can see there's all these images in the fire, like the dragon and the faces.
The heads.
Yeah, it's so cool. I absolutely love the credits this season. I liked them the last couple of seasons too, but I think they're extra cool this season.
I love having the depiction of the main characters rather than just a picture of Daryl. I really like that, having the art instead of just a clip of Daryl or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
It made a big difference.
What is your number 1?
Number 1, we've talked about it already, but we can talk about it some more. Carol standing up for the women. Hooray! Yes. We love Carol. We love this version of Carol, and I'm never going to shut up. Carol is a true feminist, and she's our queen. And there's a reason she's our queen, and that's it. I love that they gave it. If they had given this to Daryl, I would have flipped a table. So they give this to Carol. She's the one that says, this isn't good. This is not right. And obviously it touches her as a mother of a daughter as well. She's thinking about, she's obviously thinking, hey, if this was Sophia, how would I feel? And she can place herself in the position of the mothers, as well as just as a human being, but as a mother who lost her daughter, she knows how that feels. And even when she didn't know that Sophia was dead, she was just missing. In a sense, that's what these parents are. They don't know what's happened to their offspring, their daughter, and that's in some ways worse because you have no peace because you don't know, well, is she not?
Yeah, exactly. That my number 1 is a tie. I made it a tie because we already talked about that in the MVP. So my number 1 is tied for that, and the absolute. I laughed so goddamn hard. Line from Daryl at dinner. I got insight. Your food's fucking delicious. It made me laugh so hard.
I love that it came here saying, "Oh, you must give us your wisdom," and your wisdom is, "I really like your food." Is there more?
And just dropping F-bombs at the table. And it's, you know what, though? I have one complaint about that scene. I liked Justina's grandmother checking him on his table manners, and she corrected him on the word, but I was surprised that he knew Puerco.
There you go.
He's American, and he actually said his real Spanish word. It's the wrong one, but he doesn't even know that. You're correcting him on his Spanish.
You would think growing up poor, he probably would have been around more people who were also poor, including people who were off grid. So it's one of those things where you made Meryl so racist, but you're like, people who are living in these deprived areas and are really struggling, often because of the way society is, are people of color. And so you'd think he would probably be around more people of color than, you know, white people. So my headcanon is that Daryl secretly, growing up as a kid, had plenty friends who were Latino or black or immigrants of all kinds, and he just kept it a secret from Meryl, who was the racist one.
I don't remember what Puerco is. I was just impressed that he knew that word.
Maybe.
I lived here. Where did that come from?
It really shows that Daryl is ruled by his stomach.
He probably meant to say Porco and came out correctly.
Yes, from Daryl.
But I thought the I got insight your food's fucking delicious. I thought that was hilarious. Dropping F-bombs so casually. These people.
There wasn't as much funny stuff in this one, and we can see why, but they are still keeping the little bits of comedy going, and I loved when they give it to Daryl, because I think Norman is very good at comedy, and they should lean into that, definitely.
Yeah, last week we were actually trying to scramble to think of some of the funnier moments in The Walking Dead, and I should have thought of some more for this episode, because I know they're there, and I know there's lots of Daryl moments too.
When Carol calls Rick Sunshine.
There's been he cracked me up quite a bit in season 1, where he was basically just like a feral animal and communicated by tackling people.
That was a sign of love. Flying tackle like you did to Julian in the last episode.
Yeah. or throwing the squirrels.
Throwing squirrels is forever going to be one of the best scenes from The Walking Dead ever. Hard to top that.
Absolutely. Daryl actually had a lot of we brought dinner. That was another great, hilarious Daryl moment. And then him gutting it on the
Yes. He was just making a statement. Last season, when the whole episode with DD and C, there was a lot of comedy in that, but I really liked when they were in the guy's garage and he was asking them about Florida, and I was like, it's on our bucket list.
Actually, wait a minute. I was just reminded of another moment, because this episode, I meant to bring this up in this episode. I forgot if was it season 2, where he told that story about Jimmy and the piglet.
Oh yes, that was season 1.
He's like, nah, I just made all that shit up. But no, I was like, when he said in this episode, my neighbors down the street where I grew up had pigs, I was like, is that supposed to be a callback to the Jimmy and the piglet story?
Brilliant, yes! Never thought of that.
Let's just hope that he doesn't tell any of the pigs that he loves them, or we will be getting theories for the next few years on what that means. Dawn understands what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. Anyway. And you reminded me, there was one little thing I just wanted to bring people's attention to, is related to nothing. It's when they were sitting at the dinner table and we sort of are looking around and we see Carol raise a glass with Antonio. They sort of raise a glass and Daryl clocks it. I just want people to remember in end of season 1, Daryl doing that with Isabel when they were at the nest and he raised a glass across to her. So let's just remember that.
Oh, by the way, I also want to give an honorable mention in my lows to Daryl's hair. Let the guy go gray already, please. It's looking ridiculous. Reedus lets his hair grow out in between seasons a little bit. Not completely, but a little.
It's hard to tell because not until light hits it and you can't tell if it's just highlights or if it's grey. But I think he would look fabulous as a grey-haired man.
it's just not realistic anymore.
No.
It's really not.
No.
The other things that I wanted to mention, still think that Fede needs to be the post-apocalyptic fashion ambassador.
Yes. He is the male. What's he called on Twitter? The male clothes guy. That's not what he's called. The dude that talks about male tailoring. We've got our own one. He's the mayor eye for the straight guy.
Yes, put him on post-apocalyptic GQ.
Fabulous looking.
I also like that Antonio likes bad movies.
Yes.
And I don't know if you saw this, if you noticed this or not, but let me find this screenshot here because I thought that this was so funny. The poster of the movie. Mm-hmm. This was not Hasta Luego Gringo. This is not a real movie.
No, I looked it up so as well to see.
But he talked about it being a bad movie, but it's great. If you look, it's got the name Ed Woodstone. I don't know if that was supposed to be a little tribute to Ed Wood.
Ed Wood. That's probably is very good. I like that. Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is Percebes, which Antonio was cooking up, the barnacles. It's possible another nod to all of us carolers. But no, for real though. Percebes, he said they're a delicacy. And I looked it up. Galicia is well known for these, and they can sell for up to $500 a pound. Delicacy indeed.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you get you a guy that goes barnacle hunting.
Seriously. According to my notes, that guy that made a scene when he said his daughter had been gone 5 years. So if my daughter had been gone 5 years, how was he supposed to act? And you're gonna torture this poor guy?
Is that Sandra's father in that scene where Elena says this girl Sandra came from the village? I was like, I wonder if that's Sandra's father.
Yeah,
Did she
maybe
say 5 years there then. Maybe I can't think. But maybe that.
But I know Paz asked how she was doing, and Lena just looked kind of sad.
So not great is the answer.
Indicating that she's still alive because she said she just talked to her, but she's not great. So, but yes, that's really sad. But anyway, before we get out of here, do you have any other thoughts that you want to add about the episode?
Nope. I've said it all.
All right. Why don't you tell everyone where else they can catch you?
You can catch me on the Custard TV podcast and website where I review current TV, both in writing and on the weekly podcast. By the time this comes out, you'll be able to read a review I've done of an amazing Danish show called Families Like Ours, which is kind of apocalyptic about climate change and rising tides and people having to evacuate from a country. And check it out. And also Made for TV, MAID, where myself and my co-host discuss issues related to TV and women and underrepresented groups. Where we were just at the Edinburgh TV Festival where they announced new shows. They talked about Charlie Brooker's new show, which has now been more publicly announced for Netflix. So if you like that kind of talk, then you can check us out there.
And you can catch me right here on both the Cyborg Queen podcast and the Antler Queens podcast, where we talk Yellow Jackets and Dexter. We just finished up Dexter Resurrection, and we have 3 interviews up right now with Dexter Resurrection cast members. They have not been uploaded to the audio podcast yet, but they are coming. We have a very lengthy interview with Ntare Guma Mbahomwine, who plays Blessing on Dexter Resurrection. He was very generous with his time, and he was just an absolute delight to talk to. We also interviewed the rest of the Kamara family. Joy Kamara, his daughter, played by Reese Antoinette. We interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, and most recently, we chatted live with Jill Marie Lawrence, who plays his wife, Constance. So check those out on the Cyborg Queen YouTube channel, and all those interviews will be up on the Antler Queens podcast very soon. We will continue putting out Dexter and Yellow Jackets content over there and on the YouTube channel during the off seasons. I'm just not sure how often. But we also on the YouTube channel, we cover Severance. What other shows are we covering? We've got Welcome to Derry coming up. We are, oh my God, Alien Earth. Hello. We're covering Alien Earth right now. I'm not involved with that one, but that we are going forward. We are going to be, Jazz and Steve are collabing with Sci-Fi Vision. So, because we realized that the after parties were happening at the same time. So it's going to be a collab for the rest of the season, I believe. So, but you can check out every Wednesday night our Alien Earth after parties with Sci-Fi Vision. And we've got Welcome to Derry coming soon. And then we're going to be jumping into Buffy soon and all kinds of stuff. So I don't think we have room to add anything else at this point. So I'm hoping nothing fantastic looking comes along anytime soon because I'm pretty much stretched to my limit. But please leave us a comment if you enjoy our episodes. We really appreciate it. It really helps us in the algorithm. Share our episodes with your friends. And if you're listening, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes if you enjoy our content. We'd really appreciate it. We've gotten hit pretty hard by review bombers, so we would love you for that. But anyway, we will, as you know, we were a little late for the first episode with getting our coverage out, but we were competing with Dexter Resurrection. So now that is over, we should have the episodes available right away, both on the YouTube channel and on the audio podcast. So fingers crossed. But I think we're pretty on top of things now, so we should be good to go on that. And with that, we will leave you guys for now, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.